The vlog post of Unveiling the Spirit, where I like to unveil spiritual truths behind contemporary topics, everyday issues, and personal struggles. For those of you who don't know me, or this is your first time seeing one of my vlog posts, my name is Sage the Coach, also known as Stephanie K. I'm a podcast host of Outside the Box, and I'm also a Christian author and certified life and relationship coach. So what I wanted to unveil the spirit about today has to do with a lot of stuff that I see on social media. And not just that, because as a relationship coach, I kind of hear these things all the time. And it's that people have this idea that when it comes to relationships, as soon as somebody starts getting on their nerves or becoming difficult or even doing bad stuff and wrong stuff to them, that they have a right, and even a Christian right, to dump the relationship and to not be involved with the person anymore. So I know one post that I saw this past week, there was a lady, because I'm also in a lot of relationship Facebook groups because I am a relationship coach, but there was a lady who said that she was dating this guy and he was really great and things like that, but because he used the Lord's name in vain, she ended the relationship. And so I really wanted to address that because I see this kind of thinking more and more and more. I see posts where people are saying I'm keeping my peace, toxic people stay out, blah, blah, blah. Like, as soon as somebody is doing something difficult or wrong, then that's like, hey, I'm not going to deal with you. And so I really, really wanted to address this because I think a lot of people, especially Christian people who do this, are really missing God's insight into situations like that, because it's not always so cut and clear that a person is doing the wrong thing and then your response is to just be done with them. And so I really want to shed some light or unveil the spirit behind these type of relationships, and to urge people to stop jumping ships on your relationships because they get a little bit difficult or even very, very difficult, or the person you're in a relationship with, whether it's a romantic partner, your mother, your child, your church, or anything like that, starts doing something wrong. And so that's what I want to unveil the spirit about today. So the thing is, like, when we jump ship on relationships, when they become difficult or uncomfortable or even toxic. So I'm not just talking about those relationships where somebody's getting on your nerves and then you're leaving them, because then most people will say, well, yeah, of course you can't just leave a relationship or end a relationship based on that. But I'm even talking about serious toxic relationships where people are being maybe emotionally abusive, mentally abusive, and things like that. I just want to shed some light on the fact that that is not always God's will for you to leave that relationship. And I know for some people that's going to be very, very hard to hear. Some people will be upset and maybe respond to this post and say that I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's definitely true. I mean, we are God's agents in the earth, and if we keep leaving every situation, which mostly has to do with relationships, that's like a big part of our lives. If we keep leaving relationships because they become difficult or frustrating or even abusive, how is God going to be able to work in that situation to not only help you understand and grow spiritually, because we grow through difficulties, but also to help that other person? Because if everybody just keeps leaving that person because of their issue, then how is it God is ever going to help that person? Because he uses people to help other people. And so granted, it does take some mental, spiritual, and emotional strength to endure things like this with people. But don't think that every time you leave a situation because it's uncomfortable or even bad, that you're automatically doing God's will. Actually, you're just doing what's best for you, because God's will always require you to endure some difficult things. And so that's kind of what I want to, let everybody know. Like I said, I see this stuff on Facebook and Instagram and stuff all the time. And I'm like, oh my goodness, people just have this very, very selfish mentality when it comes to relationships. And that is not as godly or as Christian as it may seem on the surface. And for those who might say, well, that's not God's will, I don't believe that, I don't have to deal with that. Look, there are plenty of examples in the Bible of God requiring people to stay in difficult situations with other people and not necessarily telling them to leave. So you have Sarah and Hagar. Hagar was being abused by Sarah because she was sick of, her taunting and teasing and things like that. And when Sarah tried to leave, God told her to go back. You also have the example of Hosea, whose wife was a prostitute, and she kept cheating and leaving, and God kept telling him to take her back. And then, even Paul talks about having a thorn in his side that he wanted to get rid of. And I've heard a lot of people say that thorn had to have been another person. And God said, my grace is sufficient. And let's keep in mind the ultimate story of Jesus, who God sent to die on the cross for our sins, definitely on the extreme end of discomfort and dysfunctional, to die for our sins. And so you can't always look at a situation and think that as soon as this gets difficult or uncomfortable, that it's automatically God's will for you to leave it. But if you trust God through that difficulty, and you trust God to bring about his end in it, which first requires you to pray and know what his will is, because sometimes it is his will to leave, because he knows what's best. He knows what people's hearts and minds are, but we have to keep our minds and hearts open to his direction, which means looking beyond our comfort in order to see that. And so sometimes it is his will for you to leave. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes he wants you to stay for a season. Then after that season, he will tell you, okay, that's enough. You can move on. But it requires us to have a strong relationship with God, to look beyond our comfort and not always leave as soon as stuff gets difficult. I would even say that this is the case when it comes to even people in churches, because I've heard so many stories about people getting upset with something that happens at their church, and then they never want to go to church again. But if all the people who are Christian leave the church because something is going on that's not comfortable, there will be no people left in the church when God may have sent you there to help change things in the church. So again, I really want to emphasize that does not mean you stay all the time, but you definitely have to use spiritual discernment and understand when God is telling you to leave and when God is telling you to stay, and what he wants you to do if he tells you to stay, because it's not to just stay there and take it 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 indefinitely. He will give you the steps that you need to take that will bring the greater possibility of bringing his will to pass in the situation. So that's what I want to talk about, you guys. Stop jumping ship on your relationships because they get a little difficult or even dysfunctional, and ask God to lead you and guide you so that not only you can grow from the situation, but the people around you and the person involved can also grow too. So that's it for Unveiling the Spirit. If you guys have any questions you want me to answer or anything like that to reveal a spiritual perspective on an issue, please submit those to me. Otherwise, you guys be blessed. Have a good week. And I hope to see you Saturday on my podcast, Outside the Box, at 12 p.m. Other than that, be blessed. Bye.